It started with a flicker. Just as Mom pulled the casserole out of the oven and Dad settled into his recliner with the evening paper, the lights blinked once, twice, and then, with a collective sigh from the entire neighborhood, went out completely. For a moment, the house was wrapped in silence. No television humming in the background, no buzz from the refrigerator, no faint clicks from the old thermostat trying to keep up with the April chill. Just quiet. Then came the groans. "Oh, come on," my teenage nephew Evan whined from the den. "Were you watching something important?" I teased, poking my head around the corner. "Only the season finale." Of course. Mom lit a candle on the kitchen counter with practiced ease. She'd always kept a stash of them. "For emergencies," she said, although I suspected she just liked the smell of vanilla and cinnamon. "Well," she said, straightening up, "no electricity means no screens, and no screens means—" She paused dramatically, raising her eyebrows. "Family time." There was a moment of silence, the kind that precedes a mild family revolt. Dad lowered his newspaper and squinted toward the hallway. "Guess I'll have to miss the sports scores." "Think of it as character building," Mom called. We all groaned in unison, which, ironically, made us laugh. Within minutes, everyone gathered in the living room, huddled around the glow of candles and an old kerosene lamp Dad had unearthed from the garage. The furniture creaked under the weight of 3 generations. My parents on the love seat, Evan and his sister Lauren flopped on the floor, Aunt Patty and Uncle Rick squished onto the couch, and me perched on the arm of the recliner. It was warm, a little crowded, and smelled faintly of vanilla, kerosene, and the casserole we never finished reheating. "So," Mom said, clapping her hands, "let's tell stories." Evan groaned again. "Can't we just, I don't know, play cards?" "You have cards?" I asked. "No," he admitted. "Then stories it is." We started slow. A memory here, a funny tale there. Lauren told us about the time she got locked in the school bathroom and had to bang on the wall until a janitor rescued her. Dad recounted his childhood attempt to build a treehouse using nothing but duct tape and lumber scraps. Spoiler, it fell. He fell. There was a tetanus shot involved. Aunt Patty topped that with the now infamous story of how she once mistook a police officer's cruiser for her Uber and tried to climb in. That one got all of us roaring. At some point, Evan begrudgingly chimed in, telling us about his first attempt at parallel parking during driver's ed, which ended with a very startled mailbox and a lot of paperwork. The stories rolled out like a familiar quilt, mismatched, cozy, patched together from every corner of our family's life. Then came the stories we hadn't heard before. Uncle Rick spoke about the night he proposed to Aunt Patty, how he dropped the ring in a bowl of chili during a camping trip and had to fish it out before she swallowed it. She said yes, after she stopped laughing. Mom told a story I'd never heard about her first job at a bakery in 1971. She got fired on her second day for mixing up the salt and the sugar in a dozen cakes for a wedding. They were beautiful, she said, eyes sparkling, but oh, the faces people made. Dad, always the quiet one, surprised us all. He told us about a moment during his Navy service when he stood alone on deck during a night watch, staring up at the stars, realizing how vast and quiet the ocean really was. "That's when I knew," he said, "that coming home to your mom was the smartest thing I'd ever do." The room went still for a beat. Mom smiled, eyes shining in the candlelight. Outside, the wind picked up slightly. The old trees in the backyard rustled like they were listening in. A dog barked down the street, and somewhere in the distance, a generator hummed back to life. But in our house, time slowed. We weren't checking phones or fast-forwarding commercials. We weren't distracted by dings or reminders or news headlines. We were just There, together. A living room of mismatched chairs and secondhand furniture, full of people with shared DNA and wildly different opinions, laughing and remembering and, for once, not rushing. Lauren leaned her head on my shoulder. Aunt Patty tucked her feet under a blanket. Dad refilled everyone's glasses with warm cider. Eventually, the lights came back on. First a click, then a hum, then the soft, familiar buzz of the fridge waking up. The candles flickered, suddenly overpowered. Someone reached for the remote instinctively. But we didn't turn the TV on, not right away. Instead, we just sat in the quiet hum of power restored, strangely reluctant to let go of the stillness. Mom looked around at us and said, "Let's leave them off. Just a little longer." And we did. Another round of cider. One last story. Then bedtime, with hugs that lingered and good nights that actually meant something. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but smile. The blackout didn't last long, maybe a couple of hours. But in that small pocket of darkness, something lit up in all of us. We remembered how to listen, how to laugh without distractions, how to be family without needing to be entertained. Years later, it's still my favorite memory. We've had holidays and parties, vacations and weddings. But that night, when the lights went out and the stories came alive, that was the night we came home to each other. Do you have a memory that brings the past rushing back? Share it with us in the comments.